As we heard at the beginning, the first Advent candle is about hope. Jeremiah says it will happen. God's going to make it all better. When Paul hears the report from the church at Thessalonica, he thanks them for their faithfulness and then gives them a reason for hope which they themselves can accomplish. And then Jesus pretty much describes the way it is and wants us to know that behind the scenes, God is working for good. So, two lessons point us toward hope in what God will do, and one lesson points us to the hope that we can accomplish for ourselves. Hope. The country that Jeremiah was writing to had been taken away. All of the religious symbols and patriotic symbols that they once treasured were now placed in enemy hands. The people felt helpless to control the events around them, and they were in fear of what was coming on their world, fear for their lives. Oh my. Oh my. There is a group in our time that seems to be alive and growing all around us who feel exactly like the audience Jeremiah was speaking to. Fearful at just about everything and feeling pretty much that the way it used to be is gone forever, which I would add has always been true. The way it used to be has always been gone forever. 100 years ago, we can read the words of people longing for the way it used to be in this country. Longing for the past, longing for a predictable, safe life, putting on rose-colored glasses, looking back is just something that a lot of people continue to do. It's as old as Adam and Eve wishing they were back in the Garden of Eden. But maybe these words of Jeremiah are today more necessary than they were then. So in order to survive, the many forces that seem to be impacting our lives, we have to believe what Jeremiah said. God will make it all better. That is our hope. And without it, we become a people more rooted in fear than in hope, which is an insult to our faith. Should I say that again? If we become rooted in fear, we insult the faith that we say we believe. Jeremiah gave people hope, as people of faith always do. I just finished reading about Dr. J. Fryrick, who was taken from his parents at a very young age. And he grew up pretty much on his own, became a huge man, made his way through college and medical school. and ended up in charge of the children's leukemia ward at a major hospital. In that children's leukemia ward, 2 and 3 children died each day. None of them, when they got to that ward, lasted more than a month. And so J. Fryrick started experimenting with blood, attacking blood cells with chemicals and re-injecting it into the children, who many of children kept dying. But he kept on trying. The AMA refused to support his work or publish any of his findings. He was maligned and criticized, but when he was in a debate, he would shout his opponents down, saying things like, "A doctor can never tell a patient he's going to die. A doctor's job is to keep giving hope, because people need hope to live. And if one thing doesn't work, well, you try something else. And you keep on trying till something does work," which he did, until he came up with the 2 main chemicals that are used today, staving off childhood leukemia. And thousands of kids can now grow up and become adults. And we know one who lives as a result of Dr. J. Fryrick's work. His name's Justin Coaster. "One day the Lord will make all things better," Jeremiah said. But while we're waiting, we need to keep on trying. Secondly, Timothy came back to Paul and tells him how faithful the people of the church in Thessalonica were. And Paul thanks them. And then he gives them, through Timothy, an assignment. I got to say thanks to the people at Trinity in Richmond for their faithfulness and for their work at making things better in Richmond, for their feeding the hungry, caring for the sick, and staying joyful in their serving. I got to say thank you to the people of Fellowship, where I served for 30 years. Their food pantry is now one of the biggest ones in the county. Thankful for their work with troubled families and the joy they brought to every one of the services that we had there. And today, in the manner of St. Paul, I say to you, St. John Lutheran Church in Grayling, I say thank you for the services that you provide. That little noisy offering is no little thing. And we use it for a variety of things to help others. I say thank you, St. John, for all the quilts that you send to people that you don't even know. Thank you for supporting the kids that we send to camp. And I say thank you for Ken, for the boots that he's so proud to wear. And I thank you for your faithfulness. This little church does a lot of great big things. What does Paul say? Listen to his words, which I say to you. How can we thank God enough for you in return for all the joy that we feel before God because of you? But then he goes on to give an assignment. May the Lord make you increase and abound in the love you have for one another. People who continue to love no matter what give me hope. Increase the love you have for one another, Paul says. That's the assignment. You all must know, and I'm sure you all have tried, to love those who will not receive the love that we have to give. And I say, after so many times of trying, we just have to shrug our shoulders and move on, wishing them the best for their lives. Because there are so many more out there who are willing to receive the love we have. And that's where it should go. But not having malice toward those who will not receive the love we have to give. Faithfulness creates hope. People trying to increase their love for one another create hope. This we can do among ourselves. And finally, Jesus tells it like it is. There will always be confusion. There will always be people feigning in fear at what's happening in the world. Jesus said these words over 2,000 years ago, and not much has changed. As I like to say to people who are in fear of what the world is becoming, Janet's heard me say this 100 times, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. And I really like what Jesus goes on to say. Do not be weighed down after Thanksgiving, eating too much or drinking too much. But the third thing he says is what we all need to hear. Do not be weighed down with the worries of this world, of this life. It's as if Jesus himself wrote the words to Frozen's. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Do not be concerned with worries of this world, but listen to what he says next, and this is just great. But look behind the scenes for God, where God almost always does his work. Birds are building nests in the spring. Right now, squirrels are storing up acorns for the winter. Buds will come that will produce flowers. I just got to see a brand new baby born. New life is always and surely on its way. Dr. Freiberg and other heroes who refuse to give up. That's where we should be looking for God's work. So Advent is a season of hope. Hope that God will do something in a big way. It's a time of anticipation. A time to get ready for what's about to happen. It's an exercise in living how we always ought to live. Looking forward with hope to whatever God is going to do next. So, God will make it all better, Jeremiah says. Paul says, your faithfulness gives me hope. Now go and increase the love you have for one another. And Jesus says, look behind the scenes for the good things that God is doing and the good people who keep his kingdom growing. Hope.